Alright, in this video I'm going to cover briefly how to start working in 3D, moving your geometry in 3D, some other tips and tricks for selecting items, and then also creating surfaces from your lines and then distorting them according to how you made your model. So I'm going to start assuming that you have your offset lines like this, and one thing that, I'm going to go ahead and create surfaces out of these, and since these are all on the same plane, I can use the planar surface command. So I'm just going to start by selecting all of these, and then I can type planar surf. And that's going to go ahead and try to create surfaces out of these, but you can see that some things went not so well with that. So I'm going to undo, and looks like I'm probably going to have to take these a layer at a time, and that's actually going to help me in the long run because I want my surfaces to be on separate layers as well. So the one that was problematic in here is this green one here, which has an interior loop. And if I just select those two and do planar surface, it'll do just fine. But I want that to be on the appropriate layer, so I'm going to move that, and then for subsequent ones I will actually work on the appropriate layer. So that one's there. So if I go to blue next, then I'll highlight the blue layer, or sorry, make the blue layer my default. And then I'll right click to repeat the planar surface command, and then go through the rest of them doing the same thing. Red, and then these two guys. Alright, so now I have surfaces, and you'll notice if I click here now, it's gonna ask me which I want to choose, the curve or the surface that's there. So you could individually select those curves and hide them just to get them out of the way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a useful tool for selecting specific geometry, and that's under the Edit menu. It's called Selection Filter, and that's going to open up for you this little box over here that will allow you to select or to choose exactly what geometry you want to be selecting right now. So I'm going to turn off surfaces. And let's see. So now if you look over here, I can't actually select surfaces, I can only select curves. So what I'm going to do now is just highlight that whole area, and that's going to give me just the curves that I have. And I'm going to type hide to get those out of the way. Alright, so now I have just surfaces. Alright, so with my surfaces, I want to now start moving into the third dimension. So there's going to be a number of ways to do that. Since we're not worried about a lot of precision right now in terms of how far away these things are located from each other, I can just turn on my gumball, and I already have that here. If you haven't, just click down here to turn on your gumball. And then when you click on these surfaces, sorry, I have to turn my selection back on for surfaces, you get this this little indicator here that allows you to move in multiple dimensions. And with the blue arrow here, in this case, I can start to move these into the third dimension. And so what I'm going to do with that, I'm actually going to take each of these layers and move them to different levels, just no particular distance, just to kind of get them separated so that I can work with them a little more easily. Alright, so now these are all on separate areas or distances from the base. And what I'm going to start to do now is look at ways that I can start to layer these or interleave or weave them with each other. So in some cases you're going to be able to get away with just rotating in 3D. in which case you can try and use these little curves here, which allow you to rotate in specific dimensions. So in this case, I could rotate that one like that, and then if I also needed to rotate it this way, I could. That's all fine and good. You can do that. That's not going to work for all cases, though. There may be cases where you want to just kind of put a kink in something. To do that, you're going to need to split your surfaces. And this is where you're going to need to create additional geometry to help you split and manage your other geometry. So in order to create a kink in this one, for instance, I would need to draw a line from one side to the other, just so that I can specify along what line I want to create that kink. So notice when I did that, it snapped to the near sides of that surface. That's because I have the near object snap turned on here. Your object snap toggle is here, and then the specific object snaps are on this line here. Okay, so once I've created the line that I'm going to use to do my splitting here on this, because I'm going to have to split this surface in half in order to kink a part of it. So I'm going to select my surface, and I'm going to type the split command, which you can also get to with this icon here. And then when I do that, it's going to ask me what my cutting object should be. And so I'm going to select that line that I just drew. And after I've done that, now I have two different surfaces. So in order then to maintain this relationship between these two surfaces, and at the same time rotate this thing, I mean, if I just select that surface and rotate it, that works, but then it separates it from the original surface. So if I undo that, I want to show you the rotate 3D command. And that you can get to either by typing rotate 3D, or where it's the rotate icon here, you can actually right click on that and that'll do rotate 3D. And it's going to ask me which object I want to rotate, so I'll select that, and then what my rotation axis will be. And this is where I will pick that same line that I drew, slash the edge of the surface, and that's going to be my rotation axis. And so once I've drawn that, it's going to let me rotate around that axis. So then I just need to pick up another point on the surface so that it knows where to gauge the rotation from. And now I can rotate that along that axis, and it won't separate it from the original surface. In fact, if I wanted to join it back to the original surface, I can do that. If I select both of them, then I can use the join command, and then they'll become one poly surface. Note that it is considered a poly surface and not a surface, because it is a joint surface. So if I were to turn off poly surfaces, I can't select that now, but I can select this one because that's a single unique surface that doesn't have any splits or cuts in it. Alright, so that's one way that you can modify your geometry if you need to weave or bend or fold your lines in certain ways. But some of you, I know, did a lot more did less folding than you did actually just bending or allowing the paper to take its own shape and curve as you wove them above and below other lines or surfaces. So I want to show you one tool that I actually just learned myself recently that looks like it'll be really helpful, and that's called SoftEdit. And you may actually have to pair this with some other commands to get it to behave exactly the way you want it to, but I think you'll agree that it's really useful. I'm going to start with this surface here because it's pretty simple. It's not as complex as some of the others. And if I type SoftEdit, SoftEdit surface. That's also available from the surface menu here, down here under Surface Edit Tools, SoftEdit. And I imagine it's here somewhere, but I haven't figured out what the icon is yet. But in any case, SoftEdit surface, it's going to ask me for a base point, and I think that's just a reference point for it to use for the bending. So I'm just going to pick a point, and you see here it kind of drew a rectangle around my geometry, and then as I move the mouse, it's going to let me bend that or warp that rectangle, and then what it's going to do after that is it's going to map my surface, the one that I have selected, is going to map my surface to that warped plane. So if I do that, it's going to warp my surface right along that plane. So that that works pretty well. I could do that again, like if I can actually pick another base point here and keep going if I wanted to. I think it still refers to that original rectangle to some degree. I can just repeat the operation here. What I'm trying to do is get it so that I can warp it more in this one dimension. And it looks like the base point is actually where it allows you to warp the surface that's you're going to map to. So that's important. It's important to pick a point that's where you want to be bending. So if I do this, I can bend that down. Oops. More. So I think that's going to be a really useful command for you. But you'll see if you go to do that. Oops, sorry. If you go to do that with one of these more complex surfaces, you might have some trouble getting it to behave the way you want. Because if I go and use this command now and pick a base point somewhere, you know, it's gonna create one whole plane that it warps the whole entire group of geometry by. And so if I wanted to warp, say, this leg of this layer differently than these other legs here, what I'm probably going to need to do is separate them somehow. And that could pose some problems, especially if you are going for the sort of thing where you're trying to create geometry that stays joined. Because if I were to go now to something like this here and split this surface, that's going to be a little bit difficult because now my surface isn't planar anymore. So if I just go here and draw a line from here to here and try to split it, I don't think it's going to work. So if I'll do split here, click that line. Okay, well, that worked. That's good. There are going to be cases, though, where that's not going to work because the line isn't going to actually follow the surface enough for it to know where the intersection is or where it should do the cut. In this case, now, if I were to go and warp this using that SoftEdit command, and I pick a base surface over here, a base point over here, and I start to do some more extreme warping with that, notice what happens here. It separates from the original geometry. So if I do that and then I can, go back and move it up here, but I'm guessing that it's not going to allow me to join those back. See, if I zoom in here, you can see that it's really not aligned anymore. So if I try and join those, it's going to fail. My bad. I guess I'm guessing the reason that worked is because my tolerances are pretty large, so it was able to figure out the difference there. So if that'll work for you, that's great. Just keep in mind that there might be cases where you won't be able to rejoin your surfaces. You can probably approximate things pretty well. So hopefully that's a good set of tools for you to use for this assignment.